There's been a raging debate about this upcoming national dialogue. First, the DA withdrew from the process after the deputy minister in Andrew Whitfield was fired by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Then the Thabo Mbeki Foundation and other legacy foundations followed suit, at least from the Preparatory Task Team of this national dialogue. Just yesterday, the national convener or the National Convention Committee said that they're ready to continue with the meeting at the weekend, despite concerns that this process may have been rushed. Let's speak about the context under which all of this is happening. Bring in the board chair of Oxfam South Africa in Phelisa Nkomo, who joins us now via our video link. Phelisa, it's great to have you. And my goodness, I think our conversation has become so timely given the many issues bubbling over around the country. Let me perhaps begin with what we've been seeing take place today in places like Soweto in Maponya Mall. On the face of it, of course, the outrage is about the death of an e-hailing driver. But the issues run so deep. It's about the state of lawlessness. It's about whether or not the government has the buy-in of citizens, and ultimately about whether or not people feel like the democratic gains have materialized in their own lives.
I mean, absolutely. In fact, the national dialogue is not only time, it's long overdue. I mean, 30 years into democratic dispensation, probably the only instrument that we've used in the last 30 years to interface with those who've been entrusted with power, it's elections. I think the signs have been there. If you look at the dwindling numbers of people who have been turning out to go and vote, is actually an indication that South Africans are concerned. The second one is that people are actually living parallel to the system. I'll make an example. Land that would be demarcated, for example, for agricultural production. People occupy the land because they just want to stay in. They're looking for places that are closer to the cities. And fundamentally, it speaks to the fact that actually the line of communication between government and its citizen has actually been broken. And the third one is through the numbers of demonstration. You've observed that we've seen an increased violence that gets used when people are demonstrating against government. It's a reflection of a deep anger at a personal level and also at a collective community level. Because what people are doing is they're seeing buildings as actually institutions that represent power, but that don't have their own interest at heart. So the deterioration of public governance and the fact that you see even less conversations between government and civil society organization and ordinary citizens. I mean, at some point, we had a concept of pimbizos. And I mean, certainly during President Jacob Zuma's tenure, that fell away. I think it fell through. And now we're beginning to recognize the value of those pimbizos, that actually they were about social cohesion, that the state is consistently aware of the pulse of the citizens. It can read the temperature, but also fundamentally it introduces efficiencies within the public governance, because it meant that when the president interfaced with communities on the ground, immediately, context-specific solutions will actually be deployed in that situation and get resolved. So we've really, when I'm saying, meaning that in this context, we've, as a citizen and government, have really, really been drawn apart. And we know it anywhere else. Once the line of communication gets broken at family level, we know what happens is that what's likely to happen is that there's going to be open wars, etc. So in essence, I think for me, there's an opportunity for South Africans to really, really give fresh perspective, but also breathe new life into the social contract that gets given to politicians. But I think one of the key things that must be emphasized in the national dialogue is that citizens have a stake in ensuring that where this country comes to. But also, I think, over and above what the need to have a conversation between citizens and government. In fact, there's a citizens to citizens conversation that needs to take place, which is in this context, civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, traditional leaders, community leaders needs to actually come to the fore. I mean, the issue of extortion, for example, where actually a younger person who's been raised by this community is now turning against the entrepreneurs of this community, demanding money that must be paid as a protection fee. I mean, it's something that the community needs to deal with it. But at the same time, it needs the support of the system, in this context, policing. But in fact, policing should always be the last option, because once you use police interventions in everything that you need, that society deals with, it's crime, gender-based violence. You know, when you have to walk at night, you need police, etc.
Right.
It really is a reflection of a deteriorated human relations in society.
Absolutely.
So that agent, it's required.
Loud and clear. Phelisa Nkomo, I'm going to have to leave it there. My sincerest apologies. There's also so much else incidentally linked to the national dialogue that we're watching unfolding in the country. So your sentiments are loud and clear. Let me thank you for now. I have no doubt we'll have many opportunities to speak. Phelisa Nkomo is the board chair of Oxfam South Africa.